Okay, everyone, it is Wednesday, April the 8th, and we are still dividing fractions. So we should be getting pretty good at this by now. We are going to continue doing it the same way we have been doing it, except today we also want to practice multiplying to check. When we divide, we can multiply the answer times the divisor and get the dividend. And so we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, but first let's practice doing what we know to do. So we've got 4/6 divided by 4. So if I'm going to divide this, I need to keep the first number the same, which will be 4/6, and then I'm going to turn it to a multiplication sign, and then I'm going to flip this number, which is going to be a 1 on the top, right? 1/4, which means these cancel out, right? And I wind up with 1/6. When I say cancel out, I mean that they divide into each other. So 4 divided into 4 gives me 1, and it basically just turns it into a 1, which multiplies out to be the same. So if I were going to check this, okay, so I did the division, I have my answer. Now I'm going to take my answer, okay, and I am going to multiply it times this original number before I flipped it. Okay, so take your answer and take the right number and multiply it, okay, without flipping it. So if I were to do that, it would be 1/6 times 4, which is really 4/1, and then I would wind up with 4/6. And is that the number at the very beginning over there? Yes, it is. Okay, so this looks a little complicated, but if you're walking with me step by step, you understand what I just did. We did our normal flip and multiply, and then we took our answer and multiplied it times the second number before we flipped it to check. That's all we were doing is checking. This is our answer. Okay, let's do the next one. So 3/5 divided by 2/3. We're going to do the problem like we normally do. 3/5 times, flip the number and get 3/2. Multiply straight across and get 6/10. I'm sorry, not 6. 3 times 3 is not 6. I hope you caught my mistake. It should be what? 9/10. Now, to check, I'm going to take my answer and multiply it times this number. So 2/3 times 9/10 equals 18/30. Now, does that reduce? I can divide 18 and 30 by 6, right? And get 3/5. So, is that the number I started with at the very beginning? Yes. So I checked it and came up with the right answer. Okay. Let's do another one. Number 3. Let's see. It's a little bit difficult for me to use this pen. Let's see if I can do it this way and if you can understand all right. 1/2. I don't know why it's decided to make everything small. 1/2 divided by 5/6. Now, I'm going to change it. So 1/2 times, flip, 6/5. I'm going to multiply straight across and get 6 over 10, which needs to be reduced to what? 3/5, right? Now, to check, I'm going to take that 3/5 and multiply times 5, 6. I'm going to take the second number, 5, 6 times 3/5. And if I multiply straight across, I get 15 over 30, which can be reduced to 1/2. And so this 1/2, why is it green? Winds up being the same as this 1/2, okay? Which is what I'm doing, it's checking, okay? All right. Now, let's do one more together, and then what I am going to do, well, let's do one more together, and then I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Okay, number 4. 1/4 divided by 2/3 equals, okay, so let's do what we normally do. 1/4, change it to times, flip, 3 over 2, multiply straight across, I get 3/8. It cannot be reduced. We're going to check by taking this 2/3 and multiplying times the answer, which is 3/8. If I multiply straight across, I get 6/24, which can be reduced to 1/4. And there we go. This is the same as this. So that has checked my answer. Okay, I hope you're following how to check. But what I am going to do is now that you know how to check, I am going to let you do 5 through 12 normally, and you do not have to check. Since you were patient with me, I hope, and went through all 4 of those with me and knew to check, learned how to check, I just want you to finish 5 through 12 doing what we know to do, which is to change it to multiply and flip and multiply straight across. Okay? Now, let's look at the back together. We have a couple of word problems. Thomas spends 3/4 of an hour delivering papers each day. How many hours does he spend in 1 week? So if he has 3/4 of an hour every day, and how many hours does he spend in 1 week? So I'm going to take 3/4 and I'm going to multiply it times what? 7, right? Because that's how many days are in a week. So 3 times 7 is 21. I'm going to bring over the 4. So that's 21 over 4. Let's reduce it. 4 goes into 21. 5 times with a remainder of 1/4. Oops. So he spends 5 1/4 hours each week. Okay, 14. Thomas practices his trumpet for 6 days each week. If he practices his trumpet 2/3 of an hour each day, so there's our 2/3, how many hours does he practice during the week? Now be careful on this one. He practices 2/3, but how many days does he practice? Said 6, not 7 this time. So we're going to multiply straight across. 2 times 6 is 12. We're going to bring over that denominator of 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4 hours. How much longer does Thomas spend delivering papers than practicing the trumpet on days he does both activities? Write the answer in minutes. Write the answers in minutes. Okay, so there's a couple of ways we could do this problem. So, let's see, on the day he does both. So the best way to do it is to figure out how much he spends each day. So if he spends 3/4 of an hour, okay, how many minutes are in an hour? 60, right? If I split, think about your clock, okay? If I split that clock into 4 sections, so you can kind of see it with a 24. Here's the circle, and I split it into 4 sections on the clock. How many minutes are in each section? So from here to here to here. We can split the clock into 4 15-minute sections. So if he spends 3/4 of an hour, he spends 3 15 minutes. So what's 15? Scoot that over. What's 15 times 3? 45. So he spends 45 minutes each day delivering papers. Now let's figure out the trumpet. He spends 2/3 of an hour. So if I want to split 60 minutes into 3, what's 60 divided by 3? That is 20 minutes. So he spends 2/3 though. So he spends 2 20 minutes. So 2 20 minutes is 40 minutes. Okay, so if he spends 45 doing the paper, 40 on the trumpet, what's the difference in time? So the difference in time is 5 minutes a day. Woo, I hope you followed me with that one. That was a little bit tricky. We had to split up 60 into different ways, okay, so that we could examine the different time each day. But the answer to 15 should be 5 minutes a day. Okay, now the rest of your paper there, 16, 17, and 18, are those input and output tables that we have practiced before. And the rule is, now look at this one, dot half. What does the dot mean? The dot means to multiply. So on those, you're simply doing 1/3 times 1/2, and you're multiplying straight across. No reciprocals. 3/8 times 1/2, straight across. 7/8 times 1/2, straight across. But 17 and 18 are both what? Division. They're both dividing by 2/3. So before you even start, just flip it. So you could actually change the box at the top. And so where your box says that the rule is divide by 2/3, what could you change the rule to? You could actually change the rule to multiply times 3/2, right? And just go straight down and multiply each one times 3/2. So let's change the rule on number 18. If the rule is divide by 4, we're actually going to change that, and we're going to multiply by, flip, 1/4. So you can just go straight down that list and multiply times 1/4. Don't forget, if they need to reduce and simplify those fractions. Okay, I hope you're getting this. Keep at it. I know you're doing great. Let's see. In the comments below, I want you to just give me another name for someone to use in the word problem. So all you have to do, his name was Thomas, give me another name. Instead of Thomas, who do we want to deliver papers and who do we want to play the trumpet? Give me a name below.